Right, next one. I think that's set up and starting to record. So, for those that you don't know me, so my name's Helen, Helen Polak. So I currently manage the southeast area, and throughout November, actually the southwest as well. So I'm part of the area manager team, which consists of, at the minute, off the top of my head, I want to say 8 or 9 or 10. We've had people kind of go off on and off on furlough and things. So I've been a member of that team for the last 2 and a bit years. I started as an auditor myself in April 2014 when I'd turned 18. I was one of those keen people who applied on my birthday. I remember it well. My main reason for applying was because, I'd heard that it was good and it sounded good anyway, but I was quite into sport, so I didn't really want something that was going to impact like a shift job that was going to take up my Saturday mornings when I was going to be playing sport. And I couldn't commit to doing a shift job anyway because I was doing some caring responsibilities. My sister just got diagnosed with breast cancer, so I was helping out a fair bit with that at home. So for me, the key thing with Said Legal was that it meant that I could still make enough money on the side to have some kind of social life, but it was hours that I could pick and choose. And I know that's one thing that a lot of people kind of say when they join is similar for them as well. I stuck with it when I went to uni, so that was just in my kind of last few weeks or last few months of college. I remember it being brilliant at uni. Like just had a message from somebody. Thanks for joining, David. Don't worry about it. We've kind of got started recording as well, so but you've not missed much so far. Where was I? So I started. No, I kept up with it at uni, one thing that I always remember was I got a phone call when I was on the train down to uni, so my mum couldn't drop me off, so I got the train. So I was all there, ready and excited, and I got a phone call about an online audit, like a home delivery one, asking if I could get a £40 free shop. No, in fact, it was £60 at that point, with some alcohol in, and it just been like the best thing to hear when you're about to start Freshers Week. I couldn't do all that much at uni though, actually, because I didn't have a car, and I was in Bath, which, for those who know, is pretty tiny. It doesn't really count as a city, so the public transport was a little bit limited. So I couldn't do that much, but I stuck with it. My main things were that it meant that I could still stay involved with like sports teams and things, again, kind of not having to commit to those shift job kind of hours. And I was able to kind of take on a role in the SU, set up a Northern Society at my uni, can get involved with managing sports teams. This all meant that I had a lot more on my CV to then kind of talk about when it came around to grad job interviews. But one thing that I maybe didn't brag about as much as I probably should have done was actually the fact that I'd done a casual job. So with the kind of skills that I'd learned and stuff, that was maybe something that I didn't appreciate the value of to an employer. That's kind of one thing that I want to kind of share and get out of today, is how people can make the most of that. So I did use it. I do remember when applying for grad jobs and things that it was on my CV for sure, and I do remember using it in interviews. For me, it was about the independence and the time management, kind of bits about planning an organisation that I don't think you really get in shift job. You definitely get it in shift jobs. When I say shift, I mean kind of your standard university, kind of working a shop, working a pub, things like that. But I think the difference that kind of doing something casual can bring is that it's your work ethic. It's the fact that you're choosing to go into work. You're not just doing it because somebody's kind of penciled you in for that day. And both definitely have real value on a CV, but I just underestimated the fact. I thought that people would be less impressed with the fact that I'd done a casual job, when actually in some situations it could be the opposite if you kind of play it right. So I'll read out the little snippet on my CV actually about how I described Serve Legal, and I have asked other area managers to do the same. So look back from when they were applying for grad jobs and things. So following any site visits, I would need to complete a detailed report about the exterior and interior of the site, the surrounding area, including full descriptions of often multiple staff members for identification purposes. Skills being observance and proficiency at providing detailed levels of description via written communication forms, logistical planning and time management due to self-navigating in unfamiliar areas, often having several different visits within one time frame or without a car. Now, I don't actually think that's particularly good, to be honest. Kind of reading back at it, it's one of them where I'm like, oh, that's so embarrassing. I'm trying to way overplay it. I think I'd just be interested in hearing kind of your thoughts about like how you write about Serve Legal on your CV, if you've got one at the minute, and if you've used it in interviews and things as well. Because I don't think that really explains actually all in that much detail about what I was doing. I'm using skills that I think employers would want to hear about, but not actually, maybe not actually looking at the job and what I had actually got out of it, in with more honesty. So just a couple more things in terms of me, and then I'll throw it over to you guys. I actually remember my first when I graduated, I got a job in recruitment. So that was my first grad job. And I remember my boss, about a couple months in, he referred to the fact that I was a mystery shopper, and I could not remember ever having, like, as in I had been. I couldn't remember ever having kind of brought it up. And he said, "Oh no, I remember it from your interview." So I had mentioned it, and this sticks with me because I'd used it as an example of like in interviews when they ask you to kind of come up with an example of when you've shown X, Y, Z kind of skill. And yeah, I'd use the example of when I got my mum to drive me from Salford, Manchester, to Burnley to do a pub ID audit. And that was my example of commitment and reliability. And I remember finding it interesting because, like, clearly that example had stuck with him, even though he would have interviewed loads of people for these, and all similar people of a similar age, graduate level, but that was a job that he remembered because it was a bit more interesting. It was unique, and it wouldn't have been an example that the next person who interviewed afterwards would have necessarily been using. And yeah, just come back to it, like, for me now, the key difference between kind of taking on a casual job compared to a shift job is that you're not just turning up when you're told and then leaving again. It's like the work ethic that comes out of it, it's the commitment, it's the reliability, and I do think that can really help your CV kind of stand out in a way, rather than it just being that you were too lazy to get a shift job or anything like that. And that was my preconception, that's how I thought it was going to be interpreted, but on reflection it just absolutely wasn't the case. So my question out to the floor is, first of all, did any of you do any other kind of casual jobs or part-time jobs alongside Serve Legal at any point? So it can be a casual job where you're picking your hours and kind of working when you can, or actually a part-time shift job.
Yeah, I'll come in there first.
Yeah.
I've got a 0 hours contract at the moment in a retail company. So I do that when I'm at home. Obviously, I'm at uni at the moment, but while I'm at home, I pick up work there and use my Serve Legal sort of when I'm both at home and at uni, which I think is really beneficial because particularly at the moment, trying to find a job and stuff is really difficult. And the fact that Serve Legal is sort of like a national company means that you can pick up work wherever you are a lot of the time. And like you mentioned there, it gives you still get the skills, and you've got to be really independent and sort of organise the work off your own back, which is different to what I get in my retail job. because I'm just sort of putting for a shift, and you know, I do it. I just sort of turn up. But I feel like you've got to make the effort on my part. So it gives you the skills to just sort of put yourself out there and, you know, say, oh, is there any work available, or, you know, is there anything I can do over this weekend? You know, and it just means that instead of just having a set number of hours every week, you know, you can take as many hours as you want, or as you can do, or not, as it might be. And I think particularly at the moment, again, it's like I don't know whether I'm going to be able to go home on a certain date and be in a certain place at a certain time. And I think the good thing about Serve Legal is that I can just sort of take up work quite short notice, depending on where I am.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great. With your other job then, so did you say is that set shift? Like, do you have to work a certain amount of hours per week or per month, or is it 0 hours or?
So it's 0 hours, but I get sort of put on a rota, so that's done for me by a manager. So I don't choose when I work. I just sort of get put on a rota.
Yeah. And have you had any kind of instances where like you've been put on for shifts that you kind of can't get out of, and it's kind of messed something up in the rest of your kind of
definitely.
outside life?
I think a primary example is probably either Christmas Eve or Boxing Day.
Oh no!
When you get put on a shift, I mean, you know, you do it because there's everyone else who's still there going to be doing it, and you know, if I don't do it, someone else will have to do it. So, but I think, you know, Serve Legal, you don't have that problem if, you know, you're the one that's asking for the work when you can do it. But yeah, there have been times where that's happened. Yeah.
What about everybody else? Like, did anybody else have kind of other jobs kind of previously or at the minute, or?
Oh, when I started, I was also working as a coach at my old school's boat club on my gap year, and also as like a nanny and doing a bit of tutoring, but that was just because I was on like a gap year, so I had like a time to fill up. And then when I got to university, obviously because I'm in America, I couldn't really do anything. So I have like a couple of on-campus jobs, but then Serve Legal's been really good in the holidays, like when I come back, because it's really difficult to find like someone who will be like, oh, you know, come be like a waitress or something for, you know, a month before you leave again. Like people usually aren't particularly down for that. And because I also usually have like a lot of various time commitments when I get home, it's really good because it's so like flexible.
What did you find? So you said you did nannying as one of the kind of, I assume, was that kind of fairly casual in nature as well, or was it when you wanted to do it, or we?
It was like pretty casual because it wasn't that much. It was like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think, for like 4 hours. It was like a very, very like casual commitment. So yeah.
Well, fair. Nice. How did you find kind of that in comparison to kind of Serve Legal as you were doing the two at the same time? Like, did you find that kind of the nannying was like more stressful, less stressful? Like, what would you be more tired from when you were coming back from it?
I mean, nannying was like very, very chill because usually like the girl, so I would just like, she would just want to like play for a bit, and then I would like cook her a meal. I was like very chill, but I wasn't paid as much. Whereas Serve Legal was nice, so I wanted to like go like bash out some pub TV visits, and I could like do that within like a 2-hour window, and then it would just pay more. Plus I think it's like a bit more active, like whereas like there sometimes I get a bit bored. I'd be like, oh, been here for 4 hours, like I kind of want to just go home or like see some friends, or you know.
Yeah, fair. All right, nice one. What about anybody else? Did anyone have other experiences in comparison?
I did, yeah. Also, I'm really sorry that I was a bit late joining.
Oh, no worries.
And then one of my flatmates came in because he's just been told he needs to isolate. So it was all.
Dear.
Yeah, I worked at the Manchester Arena on a casual basis when I first started doing visits with Serve Legal as well. So I found that was quite good because we would only ever get contacted when there was an event on, and they'd ask you, they'd just say, oh, we've got, you know, like this event happening, are you free to work? And you were free to turn that down. But I found that I could get quite a good kind of balance going between doing safe legal visits whenever I had time, and then also being able to do that and know that there would be shifts available whenever I wanted them, but to not have like the pressure to always have to like say yes to things.
Yeah, no, of course. I guess with the kind of events thing, was it? I mean, I guess it depends kind of what else you've got going on, but like, how did you find like the kind of sociability of the hours? That with it being kind of more in the evening, I guess.
It was all right. Because you would usually start about 4 and finish whenever the event finished, so it wasn't too late. But yeah, it was all right, but there wasn't really, it obviously wasn't that frequent, so you'd find that if you did need kind of more money or something like a particular month, it wasn't great, because sometimes when you needed the work it wasn't necessarily there, and then other times there would be a month where for some reason there would just be like events back to back, and people would be asking you to work like 3 nights in a row, and you'd have to say, oh, I'm struggling a bit with that, so I can't really.
Out of interest, this is maybe a bit, I don't know, it's more me prying really. I'm sure you've been asked before by an area manager, like, oh, please could you go to do this audit, or like, please could you, like, really desperate for work in this area, anyone able to do it. What did you find harder to say no to, like an event at the arena where you couldn't work but they were kind of desperate to, or when it's your area manager asking?
I found that it was easier to say no to the arena, just because I knew that there was so many of us on a database that they could very easily, they could have sent that same text out to probably about 50 odd people, and that it would be fine. Whereas if you're being asked by an area manager to do something, it's probably because they are at a bit of a last resort, or that you're the kind of main person they've identified in that area. So I think you do, on like a human level, you do feel like, oh, you do want to help. You do want to help out, because you know that they're obviously, they want that job to be done as well for their sake.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you. And don't worry, I won't let the Manchester area manager know that that you're an easy one to guilt trip and doing some work. Yeah, it's something that I'm quite interested in, like, you know, how much pressure do you kind of from civ legal? Obviously, with the nature of the work, like sometimes you can be called on to be like, please, can you get to a particular place? And you know, sometimes you might have committed to doing some work and not ended up kind of, you know, something's come up midweek that's got in the way and you're not too sure. Like, have any of you had kind of any experiences with doing that that's maybe kind of, I don't know whether it's been kind of positive in some ways or negative in some ways? It'd be great to get some feedback on it.
Yeah, I've had some, so I'm from the Midlands, so I've kind of done some work in Derby, some work in Birmingham. So one day I did a trip to Birmingham. I think it was about 25 jobs to get done, and it got to the end of the day and I'd only done 20. So I texted my own manager going, I don't think I can do these last 5, and it just really wouldn't be worth my while driving an hour and a half to Birmingham tomorrow to pick them up. Is that okay if I leave them? And I think there was 2 that she said she definitely needed doing that day, which we managed to squeeze in on the way home. But it was really great that the other 3, she just said that she could find someone else to do. But there was that immediate panic of those last 2. I was like, I don't know if I can squeeze them in, but we did manage to on the way home, which was helpful.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. What about anybody else? Has anyone had any times when it's been like, I don't know, like too much pressure, or like kind of it's not been?
Yeah, I had a day when I'd driven. I'm at uni now, but I live in Newcastle, and I'd driven from Newcastle to Carlisle to do quite a lot of visits, and it got like, I'd probably, like you were saying before, I'd probably done like upwards of like 15, 20, and then I started to feel quite ill, and I just ended up having to say, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm I'm really not feeling well, and I'm a bit nervous about the drive back because it was about an hour and a half, and I'm just like, would it be okay if I just headed back now? Just because obviously the last place you want to be when you're not feeling good is in the middle of Carlisle on your own, like knowing you've got to drive back. So I'm gonna have to call it a day, but I'd be happy to pick them up again. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, you know, I think kind of with Cert Legal, there is a casual nature to the job, but then it's hard to kind of sometimes get that balance with kind of, you know, we do need work being done by the times that we expect it to be done, so it can be a bit of a fine line. But you know, I think we'll always kind of it's never within our interest to kind of be putting excess pressure on it. So I think kind of definitely working with your area manager to maybe say, like, you know, if you think something's going to be a bit much, maybe find out, like, oh, well, are there any that you'd want me to prioritise, just in case I can't get around all of that many. But yeah, it's interesting to get some feedback about it. So just another question. So have any of you had things that kind of, it might have been kind of alongside university, it might be other parts of your lives, what you've got going on, that you've been able to make time for as a result of having a casual job, rather than where, like, you know, you might have known friends that have kind of more set jobs, set shift jobs, where they're not able to do it. Like, have you found that's helped in any way?
I find that it's been quite flexible as an option because I've got additional needs, so I've got to go to hospital. And it's a much easier workplace to be kind of like, I can just go to the appointments I need rather than trying to have to move shifts about and stuff. So, like, because the NHS will either be like, you can come in like in a week or in 2 years. Like, there's no wiggle room. So it's quite good to be able to mix it around that, and then it fits around uni quite well. So I've actually started a new job this week because Serve Legal's quite... I'm only doing maybe a visit or two a month at the moment because I've aged out of HID.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that that was able to kind of make things easier for you. Yeah, obviously, kind of work at the minute is a bit minimal in general, and hopefully it'll pick back up more so for us all kind of in December. What about anybody else? Like, has anyone found that there's kind of other things that they've been able to make time for that they weren't sure that they'd be able to?
I guess this.
Sorry.
Oh, wait. Let's respond to this. Catriona, do you want to start us off, and then?
Yeah, sure. So I took up the job over lockdown. I think it was in June, because I'd been cut short on my A-levels, and I felt like I needed a job before I went to university. But I was quite cautious of getting a typical 9-to-5 in a supermarket with the outbreak of coronavirus, when I was still having to look after my grandparents. I wanted to make sure that I was safe and that I had free time if ever they needed me, or if friends and family needed things. So I found that choosing to work the days I wanted and the hours I wanted, I could be as safe as I needed to, especially with like the home delivery audits, and still make all the time to travel to look after my family elsewhere, which I found really, really useful.
Okay. Great stuff. So I couldn't quite see who else it was that was going to say something there. Someone else want to kick us off?
I can.
Yeah.
So because I do sport, it means that I can't really I guess this isn't so much making time, but it's like really difficult for me to get a regular job that isn't flexible, because usually, when I have free time on the weekends, like I might be away on like a short weekend training camp, or I might be away racing all day. And it's like, especially because that comes up a lot at certain times of the year, it's kind of like, it's difficult to have something that's like a regular commitment, just in case I need to be available for something, whether that's even someone in like my crews have like commitments and I need to be flexible about my training times. So it's just good, because it means that by being able to work around that, means that I could like do fairly regular work, but without having the sort of limitations of having to be committed to a specific time every week, which is quite valuable for me.
Okay. What's your sport?
Rowing.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I think you did mention, didn't you? Because you were doing coaching. Oh, right. Well,
Yeah.
that's Oh, great stuff. But did anybody else have something to say there? I couldn't see if someone else was going to comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd just say, for me anyway, I'm in Ireland, so I'm at home. I live at home and go to college, but since it's all online, if I have, let's say, a 2 hour gap in between lectures, I wouldn't obviously be able to fit a normal job in there. Whereas with Serve Legal, I'm quite close to the city. I can have, I can carry out audits in that time frame. Whereas like a job, I wouldn't have been able to fit a shift in there, for example, and leave my weekends free then because I'm financially stable enough to not have to work the weekends, things like that.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll just go on to I've got a couple more questions, and then can give you a chance to ask any questions and things as well. So obviously I mentioned about kind of how I'd used my kind of auditor job on my CV and in job interviews. Have any of you had any experiences of doing that so far?
So I've used it on an application form.
Yeah.
So it was for an internship. I've written how it's, particularly in Serve Legal, how we have to write quite detailed but concise and accurate reports. And for the company that I've applied for, that's quite a key thing, being able to like communicate in a clear way, like when writing reports and things like that. And I think that Serve Legal sort of given me a prime example of being able to do that. So it's sort of allowed me to demonstrate that skill, which I think has been really helpful.
Okay. Okay.
I used
Anybody else? Oh, go on.
I used it for my new job. It's a marketing firm. So they deal primarily with point of sale merchandising. So I was able to kind of explain how for Serve Legal I'd had the side of the customer and understood quite well how the point of sale and the detail and how the staff are around that affects the customer service. So I was able to kind of swing it around a bit, and it ended up landing me the job, being able to show that I had kind of some form of experience rather than just I like to do work for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think people that don't necessarily do the work might not realise that it isn't just the question about whether you ask for ID or not. You are actually having to take in a lot of different bits of information. Obviously, there's often questions on customer service. At the minute, there's questions on kind of coronavirus measures in the shops and things like that with some audits as well. So I do think particularly in that kind of retail environment, you would be way more aware of kind of all of those little things that might be going on in stores. Like, I know I like still find it really funny now when I get served. This is a more basic version, but like when I get asked for ID, as I still do because I'm a baby face, then and like if I didn't have it with me or something, or if they just comment, if they don't ask for my ID, but they say, "Oh God, sorry, we've got to be careful," and sometimes they'll mention Serve Legal, or they'll say like we get mystery shoppers, and I always just find that kind of funny because I'm there like, well, what would you have put on the Serve Legal report about this if I was writing it up, but so just have a look what else we're going to ask. The kind of last thing that I wanted to ask really was what do you think we might be able to do to make things better for young people? Like basically the part of the point of this meeting was to try and kind of get to grips with first of all get some ideas as to the benefits that can be brought out from kind of casual work for young people, and kind of let other auditors know that there are kind of things that they can be doing with that to make it, to improve their university lives or kind of careers down the line and things like that. But also just kind of give our young people, as kind of the vast majority of our workforce is under 25, what more we can maybe be doing to kind of make people's lives a little bit better, whether it's kind of within Serve Legal or kind of giving them more chance to do more things outside. Does anyone have any kind of bits of feedback that they could give us on that we can try and take forward?
I do.
Yeah.
I think, like, for me, the things that we did over lockdown when we started that Facebook group, and then we had like the pub quizzes and little things like that. I found that was really good because that was the first time where I'd actually seen anybody else that did the same job that I was doing, and it was quite nice to have that community and find people that were doing the same thing in your area as well, and just get tips off other people and think like, oh, I never thought of I could do that to make life a bit easier. But just even to kind of promote that to other people, I think particularly with me, I found out about the job through word of mouth, and I've recommended people who have then signed up also through word of mouth. So I think maybe even if you looked at appointing like people as kind of like ambassadors and kind of using like social media to be like, this is so and so who does this, and like, it's almost like a day in the life kind of thing. So I think the word of mouth with Serve Legal is such a powerful thing, because people, once you tell people about it, they're like, oh, and you get to do that, and they're a bit like, oh wow. So I think definitely you could almost use that to your advantage a little bit, because once people do hear about what they do, I think it's definitely people are kind of really keen to sign up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely had experiences when I've told people about it, and they're like, "There's no way that's legit. Like, you're not getting paid to vibe it."
Yeah, that's the thing. When you read about it as well, like on the website, when I looked at it, and I was like, it almost just looks too good to be true. But then obviously you learn that it is like how everything works. But I think that just being able to have another, like a friendly face or something of actually seeing just the people rather than just like a brand and going, this is what we do, like this is how it works. And then I think that might make people almost feel a bit more comfortable that they're signing up to work with as part of a community rather than just work, even though it is very like an individual kind of job. You've got to be very self-driven. For some people it's nice to be like, oh, I do that, but I know some other people that do it too, so you can kind of have a bit of a network with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I guess a big part of that was when I was running like some of those events and things, and then like the pub quiz one, when people were like letting me know who was on their pub quiz, and I was like, no way that those two people know each other, because like they would have formed like I guess because so many people hear about it through word of mouth, then yeah, you would get like a group of four that were kind of teaming together for things like that. And yeah, no, that was quite interesting. And yeah, definitely means that we can do more of that. Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of, I'll throw the question kind of back up, but also if no one's kind of got any other bits of feedback, does anyone have any other like kind of downsides of kind of casual work, kind of not to make what you said, Emily, as a kind of downside, but you know, the kind of isolation a bit almost of kind of the fact that you're working on your own. Like, does anybody find that that's kind of sometimes a drawback of the work?
I don't personally mind it, because I can just sit down and listen to a music or an audiobook or a podcast, because I use public transport, which I think most people don't. I think a lot of people do drive, but as someone who uses public transport, if I've got like a long bus drive or a train journey, then I can just sit down and, you know, listen to music or a podcast, and I quite like that.
Okay. Yeah, so you quite appreciate the fact that it's kind of getting you out and about and kind of almost giving you some time on your own, maybe, especially for those like living in halls and things. That could be an aspect. What about anybody else? Anyone else got anything to add on
I'd
that?
say there's a bit of a sort of a stigma on, you know, when I first got into it, I was kind of like, oh, am I getting people fired here? Am I getting people fired from their jobs for doing this? But then, you know, I did a bit more research, and it's kind of more on the basis of it's more training for staff. You know, it's kind of at a higher level rather than, I'm not going to whip out a piece of paper saying, "Yep, you're fired now." You know, like it's kind of more a training thing, which I suppose isn't really. I didn't find it as clear when I was getting into it at the start. That it was more about the training the staff rather than kind of punishing them. You know.
Yeah, for sure. That's why another reason why we have boxes about like, please explain anything unusual, and in that you can put like positive things as well. We do get the people saying like, yeah, actually the customer service was really good, or this person had a really difficult situation just before I was served and they handled it really well and still kept the face and stuff. So that definitely that's really good feedback though, that we could maybe do a bit more to kind of put that out, because I kind of would understand anybody feeling that might really impact on someone's experience of it. Anybody else, anyone to add? Sophie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I just came like 10 minutes ago.
No worries at all.
Yeah, just following on from the whole long bus journeys and the public transport and stuff like that. I guess only because we only have 3 people in the entirety of North Wales that are actually in this community and in this job itself. It's been a bit difficult trying to maintain some sort of kind of schedule of like free time, so then we're able to do this, and free time for ourselves. Kind of like I have such a freaking busy life, which I appreciate so much. I have 2 jobs currently. I do the degree because I'm a uni student. I am a chair of a society. I try to have time for myself, but I physically can't. There's just been a bit of miscommunication a lot of the time. Like my housemate is also a self-legal auditor. I got her into it because I'm just like, yes, please take the job. And it's been a bit of a miscommunication on probably both parts. The area manager, I think it's Caitlin in this one, and then us, because we try to maintain some sort of schedule and try to get free time. The bus journeys take so long. One of them, I had to go to Portmadoc, and that took 2 hours of my each way, and it just feels like a bit impersonal in a sense, because I appreciate the work that you guys give me, but it's been overwhelming because I've had to do like 25 audits in a week or something, and I do public transport as well. So I guess communication is kind of important to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I definitely think that was something that when kind of some area managers taken on bigger patches and things, that it's kind of been a bit harder to kind of keep up to the kind of standard that we'd expect, I guess. And I think definitely do communicate that to your area manager as well. We were saying before you came in, there can be pressures sometimes. Like you can have said that I'll take on some work, and actually kind of when it comes to it getting added on, it can be a little bit like considerably more sometimes than expected, or kind of the like logistics of it are going to be more complicated. So I think just make the most of the fact that when you ask for work, you can still kind of have that conversation to look into it, and make it fairly clear that like this is the amount of time that it will take. So and then see if things can be adjusted to account for that.
We did try it at some point. It's just a bit of kind of, I don't know. It's been a lot, but we still appreciate it a lot. It's just a case of like, it's not just the logistics part of it. Is that me and Beth, we tell self-legal. Sorry, she's just there. We tell the area manager like the maximum that we can do is probably around like 10 to 13, and sorry, she's staring at me, and she kind of ends up trying to get more out of it, and we do appreciate it, but it's a bit on the nose and very overwhelming.
Yeah, no, and that it's good feedback to receive, and we'll make sure it's kind of passed on. But and well done for getting more people involved by getting them signed up. So at least that kind of helps out. And we were saying it's quite nice when you kind of know people that also do the work and stuff. And that's obviously a lot easier to do at uni. So well done getting more referrals through. Did anybody else have anything else to add on that, or am I good to go into the last bit? Or
I think on you go.
lots of people talking about. Sorry, go on. Russell, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have a little bit more communication from like people at Civlegal rather than just the area manager, because, for example, I quite like reading the newsletters and reading posts on the Facebook, but other than that, I don't seem to hear anything about what's going on at Civlegal or changes that might be happening or anything like that. So I think maybe just being more transparent with the students, young people would be quite good as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that on board. Yeah, kind of something that I'm particularly kind of keen to get happening a little bit more. And I know from speaking to other area managers as well, that is something that we all kind of do definitely want to do as well. So we'll make sure that we're kind of getting the message across that it's something that auditors really value. So it's a really good use of our time. Anybody else?
I was just going to say that.
Oh, sorry. And then Catriona?
For me, it was just on the communication side. When we're getting told about audits, like a bit more info about them. Like I know they're trying to keep them kind of secret before you get it, but like I sometimes get just like I've got 2 in the DD postcode, which is like I think it's about 100 mile spread.
Yeah, I imagine in Scotland that can be much more difficult.
I can't agree to ones based on that because I had one time I agreed to one and then I had to turn it down because it was like a £2-3 audit, but I was gonna have to do like 2 hours of travel, and it was like, I'm really sorry, but like I can't justify that because all I got was the DD postcode bit.
Yeah, so understood.
Back and bug like, can I at least get the towns, because otherwise I can't know when I'm free, because it could be a 10-minute bus or 2 free buses.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely more of an issue in the bigger postcodes, and we can. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely feed that back to our manager team as well. But as I say, once again, like I guess another reason for kind of putting something like this across it is that we do really want to get your voices kind of helping us out. So do speak directly to your area managers as well, and say that say these kind of things, because generally I'd say they'll take feedback on board, particularly at the minute when you've probably had a couple of maybe different area managers in recent time, people that don't know the geography of the areas and are just kind of starting to learn it. Those kind of bits of feedback are really, really useful, like more valuable even than normal. A lot of us don't necessarily kind of cover an area that we used to, so it is particularly useful. But thanks for the feedback, Davey. Catriona, were you going to add something there as well?
Yeah, a really similar point. I find that the pay is amazing. I really was grateful for that when I started the job. And you can find that if you're in your hometown, you can get 4 or 5 audits done within an hour. But similar to what was just said, there's the occasional one which might be a 20, 30 mile drive for a £4 or £5 job, which with time you just can't really validate. If there's a few in that area, then it's normally worthwhile. I feel bad saying that I can't turn down, that I can't do a job because it will take me an hour and it'll only be worth a couple of pounds. I don't know how that would be solved, but that is just something that I've quite often struggled with.
Again, I'd say it comes back to kind of having those conversations, and probably the reason why you might not feel like you can have those conversations is maybe our fault, like that we're not kind of given the opportunities to kind of do so, or make you feel kind of comfortable doing so, because understandably it's never like the most comfortable conversation when no money's involved. Like I definitely encourage you to do so. I try and encourage my auditors to do so, is to let me know. And I think generally it comes down to again, if someone doesn't have that great a geographical knowledge, like your area way better than your area manager does, they might know the postcodes off by heart, but that's about it. You know how long things actually take in practice. So I think generally, if you can justify it, we'll listen. It's generally it's a lot easier for us to do something about it if we have it as like, right, this place is a 30-minute drive and there and back, and things like that, which I know isn't ideal on your part because it's a bit more work for you, but kind of the nature of the work does kind of require a little bit of toing and froing. We do have some quite exciting kind of new software kind of things coming out in the fairly near future, I think I'm allowed to say. So things like that should be improving quite a lot as well. Fingers crossed for that. I'll just finish up then, because I don't want to use up too much of your time unless anyone has anything like really pressing they want to say. Oh, okay. So I just wanted to kind of finish up with reminding people that we do hire internally. And you've all kind of taken time out of your day today to kind of join in this conversation and kind of do something to make Serve Legal better. That's one kind of, I know, really encouraging thing to know that our auditors do kind of want to kind of do things to make the company better for not just themselves but for everybody else as well. So I just wanted to end with a little bit about how I kind of got into Serve Legal in the role that I'm doing at the minute. So as I went through before, like I got a job in recruitment, as mentioned the kind of interview example there, and didn't really like it. Saw Serve Legal advertising. I just happened to come across, because I still followed their Facebook page, and I just happened to come across that they were advertising for area manager. I remember getting on quite well with my area manager and him saying about kind of what it involved. Interviewed, got the job. Won't go into all the kind of boring bits, but my role since then has meant that I've been able to manage a group of people that work at the weekend. I've been able to deal directly with some clients, organise socials. That was one of my responsibilities. That was a bit of a fun one. And now I manage like the social media, and kind of despite not really having much experience in that, they let me kind of give that a go and give me some training on it. So we also have like AC positions, as you've probably spoken to people at the weekend, or those who do pub TV, like the people that can text out at the start of games and things. I would encourage anyone to be applying for those kind of jobs. Obviously, at the minute there's not quite so much because of the job market in general not being the most active in the UK. Please do kind of keep an eye out on things like that. I say the majority of the area manager team and the ops team have come up from the auditor pool, and auditors give us a great pool to recruit from. So do kind of make the most of that. So hopefully I had some tips on kind of making the auditor role look good on your CV in general, but do consider that we may have roles for you as well. We'll leave it at that then. But yeah, thanks very much once again for taking part, and thanks for all of your feedback. Speak to you again soon, hopefully at some point.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.